Alright.
I'm
I'm gonna call to order the April 28th, 2026 Canterbury Planning Board meeting just after 7 o'clock. Greg will not be here tonight. You can have that reflected in the minutes. I haven't heard any word from Megan at this point. First item is approval of the April 14th minutes. And told that there were no suggestions given to Cheryl, so does anyone have any other corrections? Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second? Alright. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Alright, next up, the conceptual application for map 267, lot 29, Katie and Matt McCurley. I'm gonna come up to the table.
That's me. Handout for you. More paper for
You guys come on a regular schedule, right?
Every couple of months, just to keep it fresh.
It is good you guys meet twice a week though.
Alright, so start up, you can tell us a little bit about what you have in mind, or maybe the different options you have in mind, and then
I'll just do a little, first off, I'm Aaron Tebow from North Point Engineering, project manager over there. This, you guys wanna introduce yourself?
I'm Matt McCurley.
Katie McCurley, we have property down on that road there currently now, so this is just a piece of property that we're looking at, that we're trying to figure out some ideas before we make things official.
alright.
And, Matt and Katie have a, correct me if I'm wrong, purchase and sales on this property?
Yes.
Contingent on a waiver from you guys, obviously we can't do that without a public hearing, but, we're here to get a general sense of what you guys think of the project area. Get any initial feedback, obviously this is non-binding. It is map 267 lot 29, 6 Old Boyce Road as mentioned. It's an existing residential house. I printed an overview for you guys. That kind of shows the overall site in conjunction with the traffic circles, plural, and then the development area, exit 17, market basket, liquor store, gas station, etc. You can see on the site right now, there's a blue roof, that's the existing residential. I don't have it demarcated here, but this is also the municipal boundary between Canterbury and Concord. The frontage, you see that there's a jog in it, the rectangular portion is technically Concord's frontage, and then as it jogs back towards the northeast and over, that is Canterbury frontage.
So the town line is right about at that jog, right?
Yep, it runs down, I think it's called Shoestring Road. So it runs down Shoestring Road and then right across that rectangular right angle portion.
No, that's the road, I think.
It's a 0.8 acre lot, which is non-conforming. It has the 175 feet of frontage that I mentioned. It's zoned commercial with the residential existing
Is it 175 feet of frontage total, or that's just in Canterbury?
total. We don't have a survey for it, obviously we're here very conceptually. This is just based on GIS information that we could pull down. But that would be more explained with a comprehensive survey. Whether that boundary or that frontage extends along Old Boyce Road, or if it jogs with the municipal boundary, it's definitely a unique situation, so we'd have to investigate that more. But overall, it's about 175 feet wide in the front. More on that later, I have a question for you guys, but It's also within the shoreline water quality protection area, that oxbow you see on this overview in the northeast of the site. It's kind of looks swampy right there, but it does hold water and is, subject to shoreland, 250-foot buffer. Also, you guys have the, overlay district, or, that's incorrect, you have a Merrimack River buffer that would preclude 50 feet from that oxbow.
So this is within 250 feet of the river?
It is not within the river, it's within an oxbow of the river, which is connected. It's essentially a pond in the state size. It requires on-site utilities, obviously the Concord utilities don't bridge the traffic circle. So you would need a well and a septic on the site. It currently has both well and septic for the existing residential use. The proposed commercial use, they're usually very limited on their septic flow creation, just by nature of commercial use. Obviously, it's adjacent to that roof floor corridor with the traffic circle, as well as the overall encompassing commercial development to the south. That is presumably what led Katie and Matt to be interested in the property as a commercial use. As it's, I believe they submitted some photographs, but you can see across the circle right to the gas station. If you want to flip over to these two concepts, these are, like I said, very early in planning stages. Put some setbacks on there from approximate boundary lines. The parking's 9 by 20, the driveways are 24 by, or 24 foot wide. Lot coverage is, for both of these, are under 50%. It's within that aquifer protection district, so we would need a CUP, obviously for the over 2,500 square foot of impact, but that is pretty standard in this area.
Can I ask some really basic questions?
Sure.
So I kind of understand where you're going. On concept number one,
Yes.
it looks like you have 4 commercial things like your other.
Yeah, that's how we started with 4, kind of same type of building we have.
Yeah,
Just to kind of see what would fit on there, to see if that would.
and that's parking around the perimeter of it, is that what that is?
Right,
And is there room for septic because of all those wetlands down here?
Yes, so the oxbow itself is beyond the property line. It's about, based on, this is LiDAR topography, but based on that, it's about 75 feet away, so would be outside of that setback radius. Obviously, that would be captured in a survey.
And concept number 2, that's just a different shape and size building.
Small
That's
building.
just
Yeah.
a different idea.
They've been exploring a couple different options, obviously it's hard to pick something. I don't
Yeah.
envy them in that aspect.
Does the state have anything to say because of the roundabout, the circle?
I'm unaware, do you know?
No, so I researched the property to the left, and that accesses directly, that's on the Concord side, and that accesses directly from the DOT portion, and they had to buy, they had to buy it, but they basically were granted access through the traffic circle because there's not a great way to do a curb cut on a traffic circle, so they bumped them all the way basically to the property line adjacent to this property. This is in Canterbury, so it is outside of DOT jurisdiction, and it would be up to you guys.
Do we need to interact or interface with Concord in any way?
That would be part of your development of regional impact, since it shares a municipal boundary. I'm not versed on your ordinance, but there is some RSA specific language that I'm sure you'd have to contact them.
And is the frontage, the problem that you'll need waivers and so forth?
So-
Variances or whatever?
The problem is there's existing residential use, as you view it, it would be to the east, but to the right side of the page. I should have shown you it, but there's a existing residence to the right. And in your land use regulations, section 8.21, it requires a buffer / screening area of 50 feet to be maintained to provide, I'll try to shorten it up, basically, provide privacy and noise to residential areas abutting non-residential or multifamily development sites. It goes on to explain that you can use different sorts of screening. But it doesn't say that you can either do one or the other. It says you need the 50-foot buffer, and then beyond that, it says what you can use as buffers. So we would need a waiver from essentially section 8.21, which would put a commercial building within a 50-foot buffer of the neighboring residential use.
This is one of those weird, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, I don't know if you guys received any of the information from Michelle that I had sent over that had the actual visuals that was with the pre-concept that we put in the application for.
Yeah, it's all in our inboxes.
Some
Yeah,
photographs.
there was all the photographs of the
Yeah, I just
actual
didn't know.
property and just to kind of give you all that information on visuals.
Yeah, I looked through those and saw the site, I did not pay attention to the house that was further to the
Yeah, I didn't
north when I was.
Oh, okay,
And I drove that way on the way home too on purpose.
okay,
But you can see, if you look at one of the concepts, the right side property, there's a 20-foot setback for the, which is your building setback. If you presumably add 30 feet to that, that would be your 50-foot buffer.
On this one, yeah, on this one. This is the neighbor's house here.
Oh, there's a house on this?
That's right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry.
And there's a house on
He's-
the lots they've been developing too.
Right, I knew that.
So
Yes.
essentially, if you added that buffer, you would not be able to do a commercial use. It would be a very small area that would be allowed.
Do you anticipate, I mean, this is that weird zone we have where it's half commercial, half,
it's all commercial,
it's all commercial.
the whole road is commercial.
So do you anticipate that, given all that exit 17 development, that some commercial development's gonna start moving down Old Boyce Road,
That's what we're hoping.
probably?
I mean, it's all
Possibly.
zoned commercially, but I mean, we're down the end of that road and we have our 3 buildings there
Yeah.
that were initially empty lots next to another business, 2 businesses really. But those homes that are there, they've been there for a period of time that are just utilized as a residence. But that's like, with the actual pictures that I sent show you like what that house looks like, which is 8 Old Boyce, which is the one that abuts the home that we're looking to buy. That home that's existing right now there is like a 1968 manufactured home that is in really poor condition that couldn't technically really be renovated unless you put a lot of money into it. That wouldn't really make it worth what you would have to put into it. And just the area itself is very run down and
Yeah.
it doesn't look ideal, so,
To answer your question, I think these lots as you go down, the banking down to that oxbow is like the property line, so it's
Yeah.
pretty steep, those next
really steep.
probably 3 houses are really, they'd probably almost be tricky to put something commercial there, don't you think?
Yes.
'Cause
Are
it
you just thinking
narrows.
the same kind of businesses that you have out of the other stuff?
Yeah, or
Well,
something.
it's all zoned commercially, so for the approved uses, then potentially one of those approved uses, otherwise, the only other thing that's allowed as a special exception is something like some type of motor type of.
Yeah, I was wondering retail, if it was gonna be more like
Retail is
rather-
approved.
Yeah, I think
um,
it'd be more of a retail space because you get that frontage.
And the size is kinda tricky too, to put a big
Yeah,
shop.
no, right, yeah,
Yeah.
and to get like a McDonald's or something, you can't do it, it doesn't work because of the size and the requirements, so.
But something that would benefit from having that frontage to that traffic that's going through there. What
Yeah.
that is, we don't know, but we know it would be obviously within the areas of what's approved, or if it was the special exception, we'd obviously have to come in to require that exception to go through zoning and everything.
So my guess is that, I mean, I don't know if this area has some history to it because it's commercial, but it got built residential and,
It used to be like under the mixed use and then
Something.
now it's official, yeah,
yeah, you probably.
straight up commercial.
And my guess is that we're gonna get some pushback from, you know, from this kind of commercial development from the residential owners that are on those two roads. Yeah,
I mean, I feel like we've spoken to the neighbor next door and she's not either for or against, she's like on the fence of just not knowing how things might impact her house there, but like that, she would have been here tonight too, but she's on vacation on a cruise after what they've been working on for stuff, but anyways, yeah, so she kinda wanted to just kinda see how things play out here, but like that, she's like, she's not for or against, and just was trying to figure out, like, we had talked to her about the opportunity that we could do the screening buffer of putting where her lot is, it's a little bit higher than where the existing home is that we're looking at. That we could do like a vinyl fencing that's there to match what's on the other side of her property line there, along with also putting shrubbery that's in there that would grow in height over time, to provide also that buffer and privacy. And then we also talked about below that, where say our parking lot is, to do like a retaining wall type of thing on that side too, that might allow for some type of.
Yeah, use the
Height.
elevation of her lot as the advantage to kind of screen the new place, yeah. So,
thank you.
Are there any other potential issues you wanted to flag with the property before we?
Yeah, so this is a zoning thing, but I figured you guys probably see stuff that goes through zoning quite a bit, and I don't wanna go down too far with the zoning ordinance, but for a non-conforming lot, they permit residential construction only, provided it was a lot of record prior to the
Is
ordinances.
this section 4?
Yes, it is, which is, the section is non-conforming use. We're not talking of a use, but it's a lot. I didn't know if this has come across you guys' tables, so to speak, where there was a non-conforming lot that somebody wanted to develop commercially, and if it needed zoning relief.
I don't have an 8.21.
That's in the land use regulations,
Okay.
not in the zoning. I think Article 4, and I mean these things potentially start here, and if someone disagrees, they end up having to go to the zoning board.
Yep.
Is 4.1 is saying that residential is expressly permitted on a non-conforming lot, and it is not saying that that is the only thing that is permitted on a non-conforming lot. But basically,
Understood, that's kinda how I took it as well, I didn't know if this might happen frequently. I'm on the Northwood zoning board and we get certain cases all the time, so I didn't know if this was something that you guys deal with.
commercial development is not that common at all.
Gotcha.
So, not one
Understood.
we've hit. I think the last time I looked at this was for an ADU.
And then the law changed.
Yes.
That was my only question as far as that, and then, obviously the frontage we'll have to figure out, that would be more of a surveyor, city of Concord discussion. I did look at the DOT access, that was limited to just that lot to the left as you view it on the concept. But that's just because they're accessing directly onto the run out of the traffic circle. Where this is on wholly within Old Voice Road.
Alright, do you wanna, we'll maybe start with 4.1 and work our way backwards? Does anyone, if everyone can take a look at that section, just to make sure we're more or less like high level agreement, obviously we have to make up in mind if there's an application, but if there's dispute as to whether or not that goes to the ZBA, it's better to flag that now. It's on page 19. I've never read that as saying that only residential is permitted on non-conforming, more that it's saying expressly that if there is a non-conforming lot, residential use is expressly permitted.
It's all good.
Your problem is that this is a non-conforming lot and you wanna make it commercial and you're not really sure what to do,
I think the question is whether, does this prohibit construction of non-residential, or does this, as I read it, just permit expressly residential uses on non-conforming? And if it prohibits commercial, they have to go get a variance. And if it just says we're permitting residential expressly on non-conforming lots, then the ZBA isn't implicated at all. We would just look at it normally, they'd have to have a site plan that fits on the non-conforming lot, obviously, but
But how could you prohibit commercial use in a commercial zone?
well, that's where
Just
it's more
because
about,
it's non-conforming, I mean, it's still within the zone.
that's why I read this as more as we're just saying that no matter how you got to your non-conforming lot, you're allowed to put a residence on it. Control over commercial uses is site plan review and making sure that you can actually fit what you wanna do on the lot, and that's where the limitation's gonna be.
What's the frontage requirement here?
Frontage for commercial development is 200, but that, it goes back to this section, because if construction of commercial is allowed on a non-conforming lot, it would then in part, correct me if I'm wrong, negate that requirement, because it would be non-conforming. By
So
definition.
the lot size, and our normally our dimensions, that's just in terms of creating new lots subdivision, and then it being non-conforming, I don't think stops any particular use unless obviously you can't physically achieve that use on the property.
What's our ordinance say for how many feet of frontage?
200.
200, so you're 25 feet short.
Correct, but it's existing non-conforming lot.
Right.
If we are trying to create a new lot, obviously we would need 200 relief or 200. It's definitely not easy, sorry.
Yeah, so I mean, if there's ultimately, if we get an application and they start here, we have to decide, does this prohibit what they wanna do, and if we do that, then they end up having to go to the ZBA. If we think that it doesn't, they start here and then potentially in a butter challenges, it has to go to the ZBA to review our interpretation of 4.1. Is sort of like the two options. So where I'm looking at here is just sort of a high level consensus, how people see this, or whether there's certainty, uncertainty,
You
confusion.
can't acquire the 25 feet from your neighbor, right?
I think that's a separate issue.
yeah.
That's a separate thing.
I would bet that neighbor is also non-conforming,
That's what
Yeah.
the question was going to be.
I know.
at which point you can't.
Yeah,
Actually-
8 Boyce Road has to
This
be
is a
not
half.
conforming, it's so tiny even compared to what they've got.
And then you couldn't even do a boundary line to make one lot more non-conforming.
Yeah, the lot next to it is a half an acre,
You have one
Yeah,
more
the whole line.
non-conforming lot than the other.
Yeah,
yeah.
So this was rezoned into commercial as a group of non-conforming lots.
I don't know that that's true.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Okay.
I think this was made commercial way back in
Yeah.
the day.
Okay.
You know, maybe at the inception of the
Recent
ordinance.
I see.
Yeah, it's been a while, cause
Okay.
yeah. I mean, we've had our land down
So
there since
The
2015.
lots probably predate the current
Yeah.
dimensional standards.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't see an issue with it.
That's my sense, and obviously we have to make that, in a public hearing, but I see this as just being about saying we are expressly permitting residential uses on non-conforming lots that already exist.
Oh, that's what the
That's how I
ordinance-
read 4.1.
agree with that.
And if we
Yeah.
generally agree on that, that means they can generally start here, and obviously it's still
Yeah, it's
we
not
have to make the
binding,
decision on the record and someone could challenge it, but we don't have to tell them if we disagree, we could say, we think you should go start at the ZBA.
I'm more concerned about the 25 feet short of,
Alright, so let's move to that then, so
So-
general consensus on 4.1, just high level is, we think that that's more about residential being permitted. Okay, I think I pulled my paper out, but I'm gonna go to right at the end, section 10.8, so page 63 of the land use regulations. So that buffer requirement they refer to from section A2 is in the regulations, so it's not a zoning issue, so we have the ability to waive it. 10.8 in the zoning regulations is what governs waiver. I think the part that applies here is if strict conformity to the regulations would cause undue hardship or injustice to the owner of the land requesting development approval, an application substantially in conformity with these regulations may be approved if the application conforms to the zoning ordinance, is consistent with the intent of the regulations and the master plan, and public health, safety, and welfare is not adversely impacted. So it's a pretty flexible standard.
but it also repeats the language from the variance statute, which is a pretty high standard.
Well, is part of it, I don't think that's,
Is
this
this
is not all 5 elements, but it's I guess just looking at it for the first time, I think you have a non-conforming lot that already exists, which is part of the reason for the request. The request is to enable, and we would see, but to enable a commercial use in the commercial district,
Well,
which is, part of the purpose of the zone and consistent with the master plan.
Article 4D, 4.0D, a non-conforming use shall not be expanded or altered in degree or type.
Yeah, they have a lot that is dimensionally non-conforming, and they're not changing
So it's not the use.
the non-conformity is the dimension, and that's not being changed,
cause if we had
Ah,
commercial
okay,
and
yeah.
residential,
Yeah.
that would be.
right?
Yeah.
If they had a building that was inside a setback that they weren't allowed, and they wanted to make the building bigger in the setback, that's where you'd hit that.
So we have to decide that this is substantially in conformance.
So we would when we get an
Yeah.
application.
I
It's
know.
it's non-binding.
Yeah, no, I'm not,
But from what I heard from the architects who were talking us through is that they would be considering a plan that would provide alternative forms of buffer. That it wouldn't be a 50-foot buffer, but they would try to design the plan with alternative ways of protecting the neighboring property. The purpose of it's to enable commercial use in the commercial district, which obviously the town likes. And the main reason you're running into this is that it's a non-conforming lot in a 0.8 acre lot, which is small to begin with.
Yeah.
For Canterbury. So,
And is that the property you're trying to acquire?
Right, the 0.8 acre lot, yes.
so, I mean, high level, I don't see any reason a waiver couldn't be granted for that. Once there was notice and you'd have to make out your case for each of these 3 factors. Certainly having the affected property owner on board solves a lot of that, since the purpose of that one requirement would really be to protect one exact property, and if that person's on board, that solves almost all of the problems on our end, I think.
My question would be, when we vote on that waiver, is the buffer that are they committing to a particular type of buffer that they have to then use that, what they committed to, or can they get the waiver and then change the type of buffer they?
Well, I think ultimately the waiver of a subdivision requirement would be whatever the final approval is. So we would be approving a site plan that has whatever requirements. So in this case, if they're depicting or we're making it as a condition that you have buffer A, B, and C, you don't have a 50-foot buffer, but you're putting up a retaining wall or shrubs or whatever it is. Yeah, those end up being requirements.
what
Like
they
we
say
had,
here.
we had figured we would have to create like some sort of document that we would have signed by the neighbor if they agreed to it, like the specifics of what we would be supplying for that buffer, so And then have that be a legal document so that it shows this is what we.
Supposed to be
you're
on the
committed
site
to that.
If it's shown on the
Yes.
site plan, everything shown on the site plan like gets looped in, and if it's
Right.
not, and there's an issue, we often have stuff added to the site plan, so it's more obvious that it's a condition from
Yeah,
the process.
Say we like this, do any of these neighbors down here, can they start objecting, when this happens, and then you wind up with the ZBA anyway? Or is it only the abutter who can?
So if I'm
There's-
playing it, they're a non-statutory abutter, because they're 2 away.
Yeah.
They'd have to show that they have standing when they appeal to the ZBA,
Right.
that they're personally affected. Given the way section 8.2 is written in terms of a distance between the abutter, I find that it's gonna be hard to say that when you're 2 away and you're outside of that distance, that you meet that, but.
What is on the other side of the 6 Old Boys lot, like the left in most of these images, I guess that's
It's
west.
It's an abandoned residential use. There is if you look at the overview, there's a stormwater pond from DOT.
That's what that is.
And then to the right of that, I did not know this, but there is a building in there.
it's all over,
You
it's a
just-
structure that
Just
is
Yeah.
cut it out. so
not
you just-
anything that
Oh, you did.
somebody
The guy was
could
there.
But it's,
live in.
based on you guys' definition, it's been abandoned for more years, so. It would not, he would have to reestablish that use.
And you mean up along Route 4? Or Old Boys?
So his land goes from where that retention point pond is, alongside the lot we're looking at, down behind that flat area by Route 4.
You can actually see the roof of the building in this image, it just doesn't look like a roof, cause there's so much greenery.
so-
It's a
around it.
3.5 acre piece of property, he's got that for sale too.
Weren't they gonna make a parking ride out of that?
I don't know, I think didn't they just use that for staging for the roundabout?
Yeah.
They flattened it all out, so.
There is a parking lot right over
Over
that
across
bridge
the
there,
bridge.
yeah.
And that's the state properties, right, this part?
So the state encompasses quite a bit of right of way. I don't know exactly what the right of way is. I have it.
But you're not expecting any pushback from what I assume is like 4 Old Boys Road there.
No, cause Mike, I know it's been listed before for commercial, to sell commercially, so.
It would have to be in a current residential occupation
And that's not.
Well,
It's not.
yeah, I can
Right.
prove via
residential is a permitted
area.
use,
Yeah.
and would be even if it's not conforming, but either way,
It's been abandoned, I guess, so, and I did not put.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the degree of overgrowth when I'm looking at Google.
well, I just mean,
Okay.
even looking at
So-
4.1, which we just talked about, is that, and I can't see the size of that lot without pulling up the map, that they have a
Oh, true.
right to a residential
Right.
use, residential is permitted in the commercial zone. So we have to account for that, but it's
Gotcha.
abandoned and no one shows, and that's a different story. In terms of regional impact. It's the standard always weighs in favor of regional impact, is I guess what I'll say, and it would be a commercial use that would lead to traffic going into a traffic circle that hits 2 different towns.
And part of this lot is in Concord?
No, all of it
It
is
is not, okay.
contained within Canterbury. Well, I don't have the survey to confirm that, but based on
But
best
you are,
knowledge.
I guess, always welcome to just notice the parties that would get regional impact notice anyway, and
Gotcha.
skip that step, and then you don't
Need to
have
do
a
both, yeah.
hearing that gets pushed, so if you notify, I think in that case would be,
Is your neighbor really St. Paul's School?
It is funny that I don't know how that is, that's across the way, right?
Oh, did they purchase?
I think it's a little tiny, I don't know where, I haven't looked at the map.
Okay.
Over here across the
Little
street, right?
triangle.
And that triangle part,
It's like,
that there's 4?
it didn't make sense, but I don't know what they bought it for.
Yeah, sometimes it could be mitigation, like if they had a wetland violation. There's a multitude of reasons they could
Or
have
somebody could have willed them a
purchased,
chunk of
yeah.
land or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right,
Like
yeah.
all kinds of weird stuff happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently they own more along Shoestring Road, a bunch of.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That is a good point, that somebody
Very
could hold
odd.
it to it. Beyond that, that's not an extensive list of waivers. that we might need, these concepts are based again on GIS information, so after a comprehensive review, there may be more waivers. Those were the two that stuck out as like very big sticking points, and they're at the purchase and sales point, so there's some risk mitigation, that's why.
Yeah, the other one I wanna flag, just when I was
Yep.
going through and thinking about it, two types of plans, and I think the 5,400 square foot version with office space
Would need as zoning.
would, where was it, where I write my notes, parking is it page 32? But you might have issues with the total quantity of parking based on square footage, that you don't have on one, that you have more on the other, which gets factored in. Snow removal and having somewhere to dump that snow in the winter, since you can't really have it come back out on the street next to the traffic circle.
Yes. It's definitely tight. It will be an engineering exercise, but we hope to, if it comes to you, it would be all thought out.
Alright. But other than parking and snow removal relative to whatever the size of the building they end up picking, nothing else really jumped out to me other than what we've discussed. Anything else saw? Any other questions?
Okay for you guys?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was to see what your thoughts are on the waiver, but you seem to think if the neighbor would be on board, then it may be.
If the neighbor's on board, that probably moots the issue, is my
Right.
typical sense. If it's there to protect one property, like
Right.
that kind of buffer's
Yeah.
not for more.
Your
We'd
neighbor's
obviously,
your honor, right?
you'd still have to,
Yes.
Yes,
you'd
yeah,
still
right.
have to meet those criteria,
Yes,
but
right,
having the person, whether it's a letter or coming to speak, that we would factor that into our decision.
right,
I don't think a waiver's out of the question, but we'd have to see all
Yeah,
the,
right.
the specific site plan, how you're gonna do
Yeah,
it,
right.
how you're gonna sort of get the alternate buffer,
right,
and then weigh that in a public hearing where everyone from the public has a chance to weigh.
right, yeah.
Alright, I guess before we move out of the conceptual, is there anyone from the public who wants to speak or comment? Alright,
I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
the town is on a butter too,
Oh, behind it,
behind it,
yeah, you guys own the land, I think quite a ways down.
down to the river, maybe.
Yeah, even further down that street, I think.
Yeah,
I get it.
Quick question, just my curiosity, with the two different concepts, what are you hoping to attract? Like, what are you designing for, offices?
it's really, I think, it
It's
falls
tiny.
under what's
It's
approved
small,
tiny,
yeah.
so somebody that foresees like that, the frontage being of value to their business, to have something there. You know, it could be if, depending on what we went with for concept, if it was the one that is the small building, that could just be one business potentially that's there that needs that type of space and that type of frontage.
There'd definitely probably be a retail space or somebody that has it, if you have an
Yeah.
office that you wanted, you know, it benefited from the traffic.
Yeah, I'm just curious what you're envisioning, I'm sure you want a hockey
Um,
rink.
I don't think it's quite big enough.
Yeah.
It's not, no.
on the office
That'd be
piece,
cool though.
It'd be nice. Save
Where
the
was
drive
that?
time.
Men's league is late, I'm sure.
It's the kids.
Oh, yeah.
Hockey's crazy.
There's my zoning ordinance, where I forget
It's
this one
probably
piece.
like the rest of the building, so it'll be very well put together, maybe.
Oh, yeah,
Yes, yes.
Office establishments that are more than 5,000 square feet require a special exception.
Correct.
There
There
is that.
are other buildings.
Avoid
Yeah.
needing, and special exceptions in this town are through the ZBA, so perfect.
We've done that with the other
Okay.
three.
If it's less than 5,000, it's just an allowed use, so you don't have to do that.
Perfect. And these are just concepts, obviously, and this could, you could see a completely different plan if somebody comes along that wants something different, but.
I think the idea was just to, what was the biggest that we could put on there, which was that like 5,400 square foot area, just to see when he was able to put everything together. One not near 10.
Do you have something else? Can't remember if you ended up saying it after
Yeah, I was curious about
Okay.
what they were envisioning.
Anything else, anyone? Alright, thank you. Appreciate it,
you.
good
Gotta
luck.
figure out if we buy it or not.
That's the hard part.
Right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Oh, you gave me that one back, right? Yeah, okay. I'm gonna show these things back in. Alright, new business.
May I mention something?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get to it today, but when we were talking about, the cluster, and connectivity, I think maybe one of the ways cluster, a developer might like to do cluster was with cul-de-sacs. And I kinda have a problem with them because they're ugly. And I think a lot of developers, what they do is there's a minimum turning radius for the fire equipment. And they wind up making a sort of a lollipop, road with a big turning circle. And sometimes they put a, little round, grassy area in between, and sometimes they just pave the whole thing. And when you minimize whatever the turning radius is, if you minimize it, you wind up with this, really kind of a small radius circle that's just kind of useless land and ugly. And I wanted to bring a few examples of that, and I didn't get to it today, some Google Map links that I can put up on the screen. And so when we talk about clusters again, I don't know how to enact it, but rather than a lollipop, you do something that's got a longer,
So kinda like what happened on West Road.
like what happened on West Road, that doesn't make it, makes some usefulness out of the circle rather than just a, big round basketball court, was what you wind up with. And I'll try to make some, I'll bring some examples, but, and there's, I think Mount Vernon is probably a good town, just from the Google Map perspective. The way they've developed is there's, cul-de-sacs everywhere, and there's just no connectivity among them at all. And so, as hopefully clusters do some, takes place here, and as development takes place, try to avoid what I regard as the mistakes of some of those, cul-de-sacs, both individually and collectively. And I'll try to bring some examples to show rather than tell, so.
Alright. And what I'll add to that is, I did not have time to put in any other. April vacation week has really thrown me for a loop.
Sends the
That's
work.
the whole trip. I liked being able to send them both to daycare that kept going through April. But yeah, that was great. We can take a look at those and see if that's something that we wanna fold in somewhere. Another option for places we can fold some of these things is the site plan review regulations. And the subdivision regulations, neither of which requires a zoning change.
Yeah.
Well, something curious to kind of go off the clusters is where I'm working now, the town actually has an ordinance, like I think it's 10 acres or more, has to be a cluster.
Oh.
So they don't allow the build out in one point, whatever the acreage is, so they mandate a cluster over a certain acreage. I don't know if that would work necessarily in Canterbury, but if that could steer more cluster versus chunking, it's just an idea. And that town is very well built out, So I don't know if that's their
Yeah, it sounds
solution.
unconstitutional, but.
Well, I'm
Well,
trying
it's their way
to,
to,
just
it's
thinking
their
back
way
to
to
the,
preserve space,
Yeah, yeah,
was to
exactly.
mandate the cluster.
isn't the original grant is to prevent the scattered and premature
Yes.
development of land, I mean, I guess scattered, like clustered. It's
Um,
literally the opposite of scattered, so maybe you could, in a world, do that.
It's just an idea, like again, if depending how we implement the cluster in certain zones or certain
Yeah.
parts of town, maybe that's food for thought.
Alright. For those who are at the land boards meeting, any updates worth mentioning? I felt personally victimized when they had an agenda and 2/3 of the items were zoning changes for the planning board,
Yeah, it was all our work.
so.
Who attended? Did you?
I was there, yeah.
Thank goodness.
But I didn't have a notepad even, cause I thought it was just like the boards checking in and be like, hey, you know, welcome to the new board, old board, and then it was like, oh my gosh, that agenda's an entire page, and it's all planning board. But
I think I took notes.
I sort of gave a high level update of the things we were talking about in terms of the cluster ordinance and what we could achieve.
It was good to get everybody in like one room for
Yeah.
a conversation about things.
Conservation Commission, I'm hoping Clay Short will submit language, I guess I made the 2,000 square feet apply to wetlands and vernal pools, and they had envisioned it being wetlands of 2,000 square feet or vernal pools. There's the fact that vernal pools don't typically get that big. So they'll have a proposal there. Well, there was one more I'm blanking on.
Mark Stevens wants input from the Ag Commission.
Yes, I have his email on that piece. I mean, the current input on ag is not permitted, right?
Exactly.
But worth having their input as to whether they think they should be permitted as a way of helping to preserve agricultural land or not.
I mean, we brought it up at the last meeting and it was sort of the notion was it's not permitted, I don't think they really were addressing it. I mean, I don't know if Mark specifically has something separate from the board, but I think he wants to be here for something, so I don't know if we invite him or just tell him we're
Yeah, I
talking
think
about it,
the
come on
next,
down.
the next time where I have sort of more language for us to more concretely talk about, I think there's a fair amount of people on different boards who want to come and be able to listen in and have some input. Alright, anything else? Otherwise I'll open it up to public comment and then we'll look to adjourn. Alright. Any of you here desperately need to say anything? Alright,
No, just so you'll learn.
that won't happen. Alright, if there's no other business, I'd take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor? All opposed? Meeting
Guys,
is
it's done before
adjourned.
8 o'clock, that's nuts. Wild times at the